maximum sentence would be appropriate, and anything less than the maximum sentence would depreciate the seriousness of this offense. So the court is going to sentence Mr. Watts as follows. With regard to count number 1, murder in the first degree as it relates to Shanann Watts, the court is going to sentence you, sir, to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections, followed with no possibility of parole. And that is going to run consecutively to all but counts 3 and 4. With regard to count 2, as it relates to murder in the first degree with Bella, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to count number 3, the court is going to sentence you as it relates to Celeste to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole.
Welcome to Dark Matters, True Crime, the channel where every case drags you deeper into the unknown. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we explore the darkest corners of the human mind.
Chris Watts once told investigators that prison was harder than death. Not because of violence, not because of fear, but because every day forces him to wake up with what he did. In his own words, death would have been easier. Those words didn't come from a courtroom or a dramatic interview. They came quietly, years later, from behind concrete walls where time doesn't heal. It repeats.
Care of them, not kill them. And they also trusted you, the heartless monster, and then you take them out like trash. You disgust me.
Life in prison stripped Watts of the control he once relied on. There are no cameras to charm, no interviews to manage, no image to polish. Each morning begins the same, a cell, a number, and the knowledge that the outside world has moved on without him. Birthdays pass, holidays arrive and leave. Names like Bella and Celeste echo in silence rather than laughter. And that silence, by his own admission, is what hurts the most. Watts claims the routine is crushing. Meals on a schedule, lights on and off by command, conversations monitored, letters read. He says the worst part isn't the punishment, it's the permanence. There's no release date, no reset, no chance to undo anything. Every night ends the same way it begins, alone with memories that don't fade. But even as he describes this daily struggle, questions remain. Is this regret or self-pity? Is he mourning the lives he took or the life he lost? Prison psychologists note that long-term inmates often confuse guilt with discomfort. Feeling trapped doesn't always mean feeling remorse. As this story unfolds, we'll look closely at what Chris Watts says prison has done to him, and what his words may still be trying to hide. If you want deep, fact-driven true crime stories that cut through manipulation, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Inside prison, Chris Watts says time no longer flows, it drags. Minutes stretch into hours, hours into days, and days into years that feel identical. There are no milestones to look forward to, no countdown that offers relief. He has described this endless repetition as its own form of punishment, one that slowly erodes the mind. "You don't move forward in here," he once said. "You just exist." Unlike short-term inmates who cling to release dates, Watts lives with a life sentence that offers no mental escape. Every calendar on the wall is a reminder that nothing changes. The world outside continues. Children grow up, families heal, seasons pass. But inside, the walls remain the same dull color, the same locked doors closing with the same sound. Prison officials note that this kind of stagnation often leads to emotional withdrawal, insomnia, and obsessive rumination. Watts reportedly spends long periods replaying moments from his past, not always the crime itself, but the life he once had.
Hang on, guys.
Ready? You ready?
Yeah. Okay. Hang Hang on.
Uh-oh. Here comes Peter. He's gotta get on too. Get on, Peter.
Carl, sit up, honey. Your poor neck.
She's pushing on my head. She's pushing on my head the entire time.
Worn out, Bella.
She's pushing on my head. She's pushing me back down.
He's getting tired.
Yeah, that's getting kind of horrible.
One more time.
This is the one time they actually stay on there. And Whew, ready for that? Go.
Hang on, guys.
A job, a house, a routine that made him feel invisible but safe.
And welcome to Broomfield, Colorado. About 70 degrees and it's awesome outside, so welcome. I'm doing my speech on relationship deterioration and repair, and this is my PowerPoint to help me. Deterioration. The relationship begins to fall apart, crumble, or fail. You have weakening bonds. You get bored of the everyday routine, and you get distractions such as work, hobbies, relationships, no matter how harmless, even at the job. You might meet a new person, and it could strengthen into something else, and could weaken the bond you have with the partner you have. You spend less time with each other, and sometimes you have no time to maintain the relationship. Sometimes in a relationship, you may be...
Psychologists say this fixation is common among inmates who never imagine themselves as criminals. The shock of permanence becomes heavier than the sentence itself. Yet even here, his words are carefully framed. He speaks often about his suffering, less about responsibility. He talks about his nights, his isolation, his regrets. What's missing is just as important as what's said. The pain he describes centers on loss. But whose loss? Prison doesn't just punish actions, it exposes character. With nothing left to manage or manipulate, Watts is left only with time. And time is not forgiving. It doesn't argue. It doesn't forget. It simply keeps going. When the lights go out inside the prison, Chris Watts says that's when the real punishment begins. Darkness doesn't bring rest. It brings noise. Not the sound of other inmates, but the sound of memory. The kind that creeps in slowly and refuses to leave. He has described sleepless nights where his mind replays fragments of his former life, looping moments he can't undo and conversations that no longer exist.
I'll do it again. Can I see? Do it to mommy. You're so cute, Bella. What kind of princess are you? Bella, what's your name? Bella. Bella, what kind of princess are you? Cece, look at your hair.
Good morning, Princess Cece.
What's your name?
Bella.
But what kind of princess are you?
That's me.
What princess are you?
Good morning, Princess. Good morning,
Are you Elena?
Princess.
You're so cute.
Prison psychologists often say nighttime is the most dangerous mental space for long-term inmates. There are no distractions, no routines to hide behind. Just silence and thought. Watts has reportedly struggled with insomnia, waking repeatedly from shallow sleep, disoriented and restless. The stillness of his cell becomes overwhelming, forcing him to sit with himself in a way he never had to before. He has spoken about how guilt feels different at night, heavier, more intrusive. During the day, structure keeps emotions contained. At night, the walls feel closer, the ceiling lower, every sound echoes. A distant door slam, a guard's footsteps, another inmate coughing in the dark. Each reminder that this is his reality now, every night, forever. What's chilling is how he describes these moments not as reflections, but as hauntings, as if the memories attack him rather than rise from within. Experts point out that this framing matters. It reveals a struggle not just with remorse, but with ownership. Is he haunted by what he did, or by what it cost him? As the hours crawl toward morning, Watts reportedly watches the clock, waiting for light. Not for hope, but for distraction. Because daylight means noise. Noise means less thinking, and less thinking for him is survival. By the time Chris Watts settled into the routine of prison life, the shock had worn off, and what remained was a relentless, grinding sameness. Each morning arrived the same way: metal doors, fluorescent lights, the sound of count. There was no courtroom drama anymore, no interviews, no headlines shouting his name. Just time. Endless, unbroken time. And in that quiet, the consequences grew louder. Watts has described prison not as a place of constant violence, but as a place of constant reckoning. Days stretch on without relief, and nights are worse. Sleep comes in fragments, interrupted by memories he cannot control. He has said that the worst moments are not the obvious ones people expect, but the ordinary ones, standing in line for meals, folding clothes, sitting alone, because those are the moments when nothing distracts him from his thoughts. Other inmates know who he is. Some avoid him. Others watch him closely. Guards maintain distance, but never let their attention drop. He lives under a permanent layer of scrutiny, not because he might escape, but because his presence carries a kind of tension that never fully fades. In prison, reputation is currency, and his is permanently stained. Over time, Watts has reportedly told counselors that the phrase, "death would have been easier," isn't about wanting to escape punishment. It's about the weight of surviving it. Living means waking up every day knowing there is no redemption that can erase what happened. No apology that can bring anyone back. No future that looks different from the present. This chapter of his life is defined not by events, but by repetition. The same walls, the same schedule, the same thoughts looping again and again. And that, he has suggested, is the real punishment. Being forced to live inside the truth with no end in sight. If you're following this deep dive and want more carefully researched true crime stories, like this video and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime so you never miss what comes next. After the headlines died down and the courtroom lights were turned off, Chris Watts entered a phase few people ever see. Prison, he has said, is loud at first. Voices, doors, orders. But over time, the real noise becomes internal. With no interviews to prepare for and no audience watching, he was left alone with himself. That silence, according to accounts he shared, became unbearable. In the early months, Watts reportedly tried to keep his mind occupied. He followed routines closely, worked assigned jobs, and avoided unnecessary interaction. But routine can only do so much. Once the day's tasks were finished and the cell door closed, there was nothing to block the memories. He has described moments where a simple sound, a laugh down the hallway, a child's voice on a TV, would trigger a flood of thoughts he couldn't stop.
Thank you for the birds Thank you for the sweet. Thank you for the food we eat. Thank you for the birds that sing. Thank you, God, for everything. Amen.
Unlike in jail, where uncertainty dominates, prison offers clarity. This is permanent. That realization settles slowly, like a heavy fog. Watts has said that this is when regret sharpened, not the abstract kind spoken in court, but the kind that intrudes without warning. He has reportedly told counselors that the hardest part is knowing that time will keep moving forward for everyone else, while his life remains frozen in a single moment. Spiritual programs and counseling became outlets, though even those came with limits. Words can only go so far when there is no way to undo the past. Other inmates cycle in and out of his unit, but he stays. Birthdays pass. Holidays come and go, each one marking another year that cannot be reclaimed. This chapter of his imprisonment is not defined by punishment from others, but by the absence of escape from his own mind. When the noise fades, what's left is the truth, and it waits for him every single night. As the years stretch on, Chris Watts's prison life has settled into something far more crushing than chaos: permanence. He has reportedly said that the hardest realization wasn't the sentence itself, but the understanding that nothing will ever change.
That's it. Shannon, Bella, and Nico love and caring people. They love life. They love being around people who love them. They always had good times. This is the first time they went to the beach this year, and they loved it. But God only knows what happened that night. Life will never be the same without Shannon, Bella, and Celeste and Nico. Had all their lives to live. They were taken by a heartless one. This is the heartless one, the evil monster, who dare you take the lives of my daughters Shannon, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. I trusted you to take care of them, not kill them. And they also trusted you. The heartless monster, and then you take them out like trash. You disgust me. They were loving and caring people. You may have taken their bodies from me, but you will never take the love they had from me. They loved us more than you will ever know. Because you don't know what love is. Because if you did, you would.
No appeal will erase his name. No amount of time will soften the truth of why he is there. Every morning begins the same way, and every night ends with the same locked door. Watts has described prison as a place where time moves strangely. Days feel endless, yet years vanish without warning. He watches new inmates arrive, confused, angry, hopeful, and then watches them leave through transfers or releases. He remains. That contrast, he has said, is one of the quiet punishments of long-term incarceration. The world continues forward without him, while his own life is reduced to routine. Letters from the outside are rare now. Family contact has dwindled, and public attention resurfaces only when new rumors or documentaries appear. Each resurgence drags the past back into focus, reopening wounds he cannot avoid. According to accounts attributed to him, this is when the weight of his actions feels heaviest, not during confrontation, but during isolation. He has spoken about regret in measured words, but those around him note that regret does not bring relief. There is no finish line for remorse. It doesn't end the sentence, and it doesn't quiet the nights. Instead, it becomes another constant, living alongside guilt, memory, and fear of being remembered only for one irreversible act.
Polygraph failed it. There, because there's too much emotion. So I mean, they're not gonna let me go. Is there any reason why they shouldn't? They know I had an affair. And they know. I can't complain about that. Anybody got an affair? Anything else you want to tell me? What's going on? Or what happened or anything? Or you know anything about? When we had that conversation that morning, it was, it was emotional. It was, told her about separation and everything like that. What happened after that? I mean, I went downstairs and
Watts's days are now defined by endurance rather than hope. He marks time through small things, meals, count times, seasons changing outside windows he cannot open. In this stage of his imprisonment, survival is no longer about physical safety. It's about existing with the knowledge that this is forever. By the 5th year behind bars, Chris Watts' struggle is no longer centered on survival or adjustment. It's about legacy. Not the kind people choose, but the kind that is sealed the moment the crime becomes history. In prison, names carry stories, and his story follows him everywhere. Even inmates who never speak to him know who he is, and that knowledge shapes every interaction, every glance, every silence. Watts has reportedly acknowledged that being remembered is sometimes harder than being confined. He cannot redefine himself. He cannot outgrow the crime. No amount of routine or reflection changes the fact that his identity is permanently tied to what he did. In letters and conversations attributed to him, he has described feeling trapped not just by walls, but by memory, his own and the world's. There are moments when the noise of prison fades and something deeper settles in. He has spoken about birthdays passing, holidays arriving without meaning, and the crushing awareness that the people he once called family are now memories frozen in time.
What are you doing? This child does not sit still ever. Look at this. Bella, say hi. Bella, say hi. And I really love the fact that careful, Cece, there's a table there.
No, Cece. Go back.
Child. Yeah, day in the life with Cece. And just feel blessed that we can do that. We can travel the world. One day Chris can travel that long with us. But just to be
These are the moments when regret surfaces most sharply, not as drama, but as a quiet, suffocating presence. Prison offers little distraction from this reality. Work assignments and schedules may occupy hours, but they cannot distract from the question that follows him. How will I be remembered when I'm gone? For Watts, the answer is unchangeable, and that truth becomes its own form of punishment. He has described days when the thought of living with that knowledge feels heavier than the sentence itself, not because he wants sympathy, but because the permanence of it all leaves no room for escape. The world has moved on, but his past never will. As time stretches on, Chris Watts' daily struggle in prison has become less about punishment and more about endurance. He wakes up each day knowing there is no finish line, no release date waiting in the distance. Life without parole isn't a countdown, it's an endless loop. According to accounts attributed to him, this reality is what slowly breaks a person down. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Prison days blur together. The same meals, the same walls, the same routine. But what never fades is the knowledge of why he's there. Watts has reportedly said that nights are the hardest. When the noise settles and the lights dim, there's nothing left to distract him from his thoughts. That's when memories surface, uninvited and relentless. Sleep becomes shallow. Silence becomes loud. He has described prison as a place where time doesn't heal, it exposes. Every year behind bars strips away another layer of denial. There are no interviews to control, no narratives to reshape. Only the truth, reflected back at him through isolation and repetition. The man he once pretended to be has no place here. What remains is someone forced to sit with the consequences forever. Watts has allegedly admitted that some days feel unbearable, not because of physical hardship, but because of mental exhaustion. Carrying the weight of what he did, every single day, with no escape and no redemption arc, is its own kind of torment. He knows the world sees him as a symbol of betrayal and evil, and that image will never change. In those moments, he has reportedly said that death once seemed easier than this kind of living. Not as a threat, not as drama, but as a grim comparison to a life defined entirely by guilt and confinement. Prison doesn't let him forget. It makes sure he remembers. If you want to continue this deep dive into the psychological aftermath of the Chris Watts case, like this video, and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime for the next chapter in this series. As the years pass, Chris Watts has reportedly come to understand something more devastating than prison walls or locked doors. he will never be forgotten. Inmates cycle in and out. Guards retire. Seasons change. But his name remains frozen in time, permanently tied to one of the most infamous crimes in modern true crime history. Inside prison, that reputation follows him everywhere. According to accounts connected to his incarceration, Watts is acutely aware that he is not just another inmate. He is a reference point, a warning. Other prisoners know who he is before he ever speaks. Some avoid him. Others watch him closely, curious about how someone who once appeared normal could commit something so horrific. That constant awareness reportedly creates a different kind of isolation, one where anonymity is impossible. Watts has allegedly said that this notoriety strips away any illusion of a fresh start. Even behind bars where everyone has a past, his stands apart. He cannot blend in. He cannot reinvent himself. Every interaction is shadowed by the same unspoken truth. The world already decided who he is, and nothing he does will change that. Letters from the outside, when they arrive, often remind him of this reality. Some are filled with anger, others with morbid curiosity. Even the rare supportive message reportedly comes with conditions, questions, expectations, and reminders of what he did. There is no clean human connection left, only fractured ones filtered through the lens of his crime. He has reportedly acknowledged that this permanence may be the hardest part of all. Prison took his freedom, but memory took everything else. He will never be seen as a father, a husband, or even just a man again, only as the worst thing he ever did. That understanding, by many accounts, settles in deeper with each passing year. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a sentence that echoes forever. In the end, Chris Watts's prison sentence is not measured only in years, but in permanence. Life behind bars did not conclude with a courtroom gavel. It began a slow, grinding existence where time stretches endlessly and meaning erodes day by day. According to those familiar with his incarceration, Watts has come to understand that there is no finish line, no moment where the punishment feels complete. This is not a debt that can ever be paid off. Prison routine governs everything. Wake up, count, eat, work, lockdown, repeat. But within that monotony, the weight of what he did never fades. There is no distraction strong enough to drown it out. Faith, letters, self-reflection, none have erased the reality that his actions permanently destroyed multiple lives and families. Even his attempts at introspection reportedly circle back to the same point. There is no version of the future where redemption looks normal. What separates Watts from many other inmates is that his crime is not distant history. It lives online, replayed endlessly through documentaries, podcasts, and videos. New audiences discover the case every year. Each rediscovery resets the outrage. Each retelling reopens wounds. He is serving a sentence not just inside prison walls, but in the collective memory of the world. By some accounts, Watts has admitted that this is what makes prison feel heavier than death ever could have, knowing he must wake up every day and exist inside a story that will never stop being told. He cannot outrun it. He cannot rewrite it. He can only endure it. And so his punishment continues quietly. No headlines, no courtroom drama.
Sure.
Your Honor, Frankie Brusick Jr. He has asked me to read his statement for him, but he would like to stand with me if that's okay.
Of course. Sir, if I can just have you state your name for the record.
Frankie Rusev Jr.
Thank you for being here.
Your Honor, the past 3 months I barely slept because I've been going through a lot of different emotions because I did not see this coming. You went from being my brother, my sister's protector, one of the most loved people in my family, to someone I will spend the rest of my life trying to understand. What gave you the right to put your hands on a woman, let alone my best friend, my beloved sister, your daughters, and your son? Why weren't they enough for you?
Just the slow passing of days, stacked one on top of another, with no hope of release and no escape from the truth. This is where the story leaves him. Not with closure, but with consequences that never expire. If you followed this series to the end, like this video and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime for more deep dives into the cases that continue to haunt us long after the verdicts are read.